whole city is destroyed and there is no life here. Different when you're here and you're actually walking amongst the rubble. Politics can't, I mean, how you vote, which way you vote doesn't matter when you're looking at this. And at the end of the day, political speeches and great pep talks from either side does us no good. I mean, what do you see when you see this? One life anywhere.
Look over my shoulder when I was leaving my job. Like, you want me to be honest? That's gonna be
we search it in their books.
We got 2 hours. Leave, or we're gonna do it.
He sounded ready. He was
The
ready
United States
to go.
would be prepared to take targeted military action in Iraq if the situation required.
I was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1984. I was the number 9th from my father and my biological mother. I had a typically traditional Arab American lifestyle, born in America from Arab genealogy. When you're a part of a Semitic culture, your surroundings have nothing to do with who you are. Who you are is what's in your veins. Growing up in America, I didn't quite feel American because we were Arabs living in America. I was 5 years old when my mother and my father split. I don't have much remembrance of it other than sitting by the window waiting for my mother to come home. My father remarried and this woman walks into our lives and she's now my mom. And I wasn't able to talk about my real mom. We didn't mourn. We weren't allowed to mourn. I want to act like a strong, macho human being, but the fact is my mom leaving was a big wound for all of us. I remember crying, but I also remember my sister, who at 12 years old, she had to become our mom, you know? And that's when I realized the enormity of that situation, is when my sister has to become mom at 12, and then my little sisters. From that point on, my father raised us through the perspective, through the lens of a man who was hurt. And one of the hardest times of my life was when I realized that no one has ever dared.
It's very bad.
Awkward.
I was afraid to have my family know that I wasn't a Muslim anymore, because it's not that I thought I was going to be killed or anything like that, but I kind of did. This is terrible. I used to look over my shoulder when I was leaving my job. Like, you want me to be honest? That's going to be bad.
Okay, so tell me without...
I really thought I was going to get shot. I'm not even kidding. I knew that my family, my brothers, my father, they cared so much with the people, the people being other Arabs that they knew. And I knew that if the other people found out, that they would have to answer to those people about how their daughter or their sister is not Muslim anymore. And I knew that would anger them enough that I love my family. I didn't want to lose them in my life. I didn't want to die either. And for a long time, I kind of like looked over my shoulder a little bit because I didn't really know what would happen next. This was brand new for me. I was never not a Muslim. It wasn't very long at all before I told my family that I was no longer Muslim. The honor and the pride in our culture was big for him. So I knew that he had to tell me to get out. I didn't think he really wanted in his heart to tell me to get out, but I knew he had to. I think a lot of the fear wasn't because I thought that they were, so terrible, but I just know what's important in that kind of a culture traditionally.
I can't remember the time that I accepted Islam. That's who we were. We were Arab Muslims living in America. Islam was first in our lives. Faith was never a matter of choice. Faith was a matter of identity. It was a matter of, you question anything, but don't question the religion. I was 12 years old when we moved back to Jerusalem. It's ironic and humorous at the same time, because if you're running away from the American culture, American somewhat Christian culture, and you go back to Jerusalem, where Christianity was born, that's the funny part to me. My father had no intention. I didn't have any intention of changing religions or changing faith. If there was a shock of moving to the Middle East, it was the religion shock. I completely 100% intended on becoming a better Muslim. I had no idea that when I gave my heart to the religion, it would disappoint me, it would fail me.
And so you're in the Middle East, you're a Palestinian, U.S. citizen, practicing Muslim in the middle of a Jewish state in a Christian church.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Don't forget the Jewish Messiah too, by the way. That adds another dimension. Did you have a hard time because of not believing like your family?
There was that the first time that my dad found out. He says, "We're family, aren't we?" I said, "Of course." He says, "We're Arabs, aren't we?" I said, "Of course we're Arabs." Then he says, "We're Muslims, aren't we?" And at that point, I felt fear. And I said, "No, Dad." I said, "I'm not a Muslim anymore." He said, "Why?" He says, "I'm happy this way, And he threw his shoe at me and kicked me out. In the Arabic, the word is kafir, and worst, murted. Murted is the apostate who left. They consider you an apostate, and then even some members from my own family, turned against me, and that was a very difficult thing. It's like, you always think, oh, I'll be able to handle it, but then when it happens, it's like your soul just kind of is jolted, and you feel the shock, like, whoa. It's like, it's something not normal. I got a call saying, "You got 2 hours, leave, or we're gonna come get you." And there were 3 guys there at that time. He said to me, "Sit down." I said, "I don't want to sit down." And he said, "Sit down." And he said to me, "You're a fool. You're being used by the Americans. You're an idiot. You're out here. You're 40 years old walking around with a guitar. Everybody's laughing at you. They think you're stupid. They think you're a fool." And then he started hitting me. "We're waiting for you to come back to Islam." He says, "I could kill you right now. It's halal. It's permissible to kill you, and I'll go straight to heaven." I still wasn't believing that what was happening. I still wasn't believing that this was really happening, because I was so sure they were my friends. I honestly, at that point, when I finally realized, wait a minute, this is real, I honestly thought they were going to kill me. So I ran for the door, I opened it, and I bolted out of there.
First of all, thank you for doing this. I'm honored, and I look up to you tremendously. I brag about you everywhere I go.
Islam is the faith. It's submission to God because you choose the faith of Islam, but it's a very personal submission. Islamism is the belief that the faith should also then encompass governmental processes and laws. The instrument of that is Sharia. So Islamism, short, is a form of theocracy.
All of these people who are interpreting the state as a theocracy are getting their substance from the hadiths and even the seerahs.
Yeah.
So you as a Sunni Muslim, how, because surely you're reading the same hadiths and you're reading the same seerahs. I have the Seerah Nabawiyah and I go through it and I don't come out with the same interpretation as you.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't. Yeah.
Well, anyone reading it for, if you allow it to interpret itself, you wouldn't. I've never met anybody who is Sunni who said we can reinterpret these as we
What
feel.
year was that? Seerah was.
It was about 150 after the Prophet Muhammad.
yeah.
But with the Quran, you hold the Quran very highly. The Muslims believe that it's the word of God and it's not changed, and that our earliest texts come right around that time.
So here's the answer. I would come up with the same interpretations you did from reading those seerahs. So how do we do reform in Islam? That's basically what we're getting to, is how do you do that? Let me use science as an example. We and even the worst Salafis will use modern computers. They'll use modern medical science if they get ill, and none of that is in the Quran, and none of that is in the Seerah. And yet they're using things that you could maybe say you shouldn't, because if you did the example of the Prophet, he did X, Y, and Z, so therefore you have to do that. So why don't they use modern political science? The Saudis will tell me I'm an apostate because I am creating inventions. They reject celebrating Valentine's Day and birthday parties and all things, as they see these are these are inventions that are brought in from other faiths. So this is what they do. They say that America is a Christian country, so therefore you are putting in a Christian concept into Islam. And I would tell them it's not a Christian thing, it's a liberal thing. Classical liberalism applies to Jews, Christians, all people of faith.
In your educated opinion, can the Islamic culture thrive in a republic like the United States?
If the 3 million Muslims in America start to get our heads around defeating political Islam, and America stops because of political correctness giving us a pass and actually says, you know what, you guys need to lead this, and you need to speak out against the evil of Islamism and promote a liberty-based Islam. America says, oh, we don't want to offend Muslims on the one hand, and the other hand that says, well, it's all of Islam, so we can't do anything about it. Both sides of that make me and reformists irrelevant, who are really the shortest. As complicated as my route seems, the other route is 10 times longer, and if not, cataclysmic.
If you have a corrupt government, at some point, courts won't matter. At some point, justice and liberty disappear. At some point, freedom diminishes. In America, and for the most part, different parts of the Western Hemisphere have got it down that separation of church and state is good, it's legit, it needs to happen. The problem with the Middle East is there's no separation of mosque and state. So they've honed in the people in the name of Islam, but now what we have is the Islamic State actually trying to topple the governments and topple anyone who doesn't come in alignment with the teachings of Islam. Where's the world when little kids are being maimed, little kids are being slaughtered, women? Where are the feminists? Where is all of these people who have challenged human rights? One life anywhere is sacred, and a person to just be expired and no one ever think of them anymore is really sad to me. It's really sad. For some reason our politicians haven't done it. For some reason our leaders in our communities haven't done it. So I'm going to not sit back any longer.
Politicon, everybody who knows about politics, religion, the Middle East, everything are here now. So this will be exciting.
1988, this issue was way ahead of its time. So from that time on, I understood on the world stage that there was an issue that was slowly engulfing not only America, but the world. Whatever the shark is in the water, it's in the water. How do you then get and galvanize the Islamic community to stand together and say, you know what, we denounce this?
So, this is the first time we've had these issues on non-Islamic soil, right? We're on someone else's turf, so to speak, right? So now it's like we're trying to find the answers while the situation is happening at the same time. You know what I mean? So I think things like today is the first step.
Why do I get persecuted based on his actions? So that's another viewpoint. So they just don't denounce or condemn because they feel like I didn't do anything.
The Italian community had surveillance. The mafia. Little Italy was surveilled all the time. They had the RICO Act because of the Italians. Now, there was some anti-defamation noise made, but the Italian community didn't want that either. They did not want that gangster mentality to go along, and they then banded together to kind of rid and to communicate their denouncement of that act. And it's not just one guy, a continued series of acts from Belgium to Paris to New York, you know what I'm saying, to San Diego, that has its root a certain kind of radicalization. Yes.
So, I mean, I would have to factually just disagree with you. If we're saying that after Orlando, we have like over 1,000 Muslim leaders in the country signing an agreement saying that, hey, we condemn this, but the media doesn't pick up on it. And then we're perpetuating this stereotype that, hey, Muslims are not speaking up against like atrocities. That's like intellectually dishonest for us.
Do you realize there was the Muslim community needs a peaceful organizational march for peace in America and what Islam is?
You guys are my heroes because you are taking on a task that is huge. I am familiar with the religion because I grew up as a Muslim. And I was born in Brooklyn, New York. My father took us to Jerusalem, which is, the politics is between Israel and the West Bank.
Sure.
So the West Bank isn't even a full-fledged Islamic community. It's just a community. It's not a thing of us against you guys.
Sure.
It's a, let's get to the bottom of it. Let's stop saying that it's misinterpreted, because even the verse that you mentioned, in context, I come away with a completely different and not as nice interpretation. So I want to address the whole the thing about Muslims and Islam. Of course, Orlando was not a result of Muslims. Of course, we all know that. I feel like as we continue this dialogue with the Muslim community and the ex-Muslim community, addressing radical Islam in the Middle East, not in the West, and what I'm being told over there is the complete opposite of what we're being told, plus I have my own experience to prove that what I'm interpreting is correct. I have family members who are victimized because of the ideology. I have community members who are afraid to come out and speak on these things because kind-hearted, good people like you three are saying we don't need to revisit the verses. And there's nothing wrong with revisiting the verses.
I'm not saying we shouldn't revisit them. I think it's important to tell the truth, right? Don't tell one part of it, say all of it.
Okay, so the truth is, Wahhabism is the actual reformation of Islam. And it happened in the 1800s by a man by the name of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. And he was the original reformer.
Well, you know he was put in jail for his ideology.
I understand, right? But what if Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab was actually quoting correctly? People in America post-Orlando write a letter, that doesn't make it theology, that makes it opinions. So how a Christian studies the gospel, what did Jesus say? It's simple. So how does a Muslim study the Sharia? You study Muhammad. And the things that I honestly, my genuine question is there a different solution besides the misinterpretation? Because it's
Real Islam is working on your heart.
Okay, according to who though?
According to all of the English Sunni scholars.
I disagree with you.
And we can go
With all due respect, honestly.
And Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa.
My brother, the Hanafi mindset, the Hanafi school of Islamic thought encourages jihad.
That is coming from a particular cultural background.
It's in the Quran, it's in the Sirah, it's everywhere. So my question is,
the question, there's so many issues here, if we can focus it.
Let me just calm down a second here.
When he made his choice, that kind of sabotaged those relationships.
And at this young age, to make a choice, for Hazm to walk out of a place of comfort. I mean, his family was well off. He was not necessarily homeless, but he was without a home, having, in my opinion, somewhat an identity crisis. We just felt like that we needed to provide him a place of some sort of stability at that point in his life. The experience of not having your father's approval and validation was a tough deal for him. So what Hazm has had to wrestle through was finding somebody that says, you know, son, you're not just valuable, but you're valuable to me.
I used to question whether my father loves me. I know he loves me. I know he loves me because he hasn't done what is prescribed according to his religion.
Do you think that's because of the religion or because of where we live in America?
Well, I would sure hope so. It's because he loves me. No, we'll never know. I mean, this is why I was a secret Christian for so many years. And even after leaving home, I was a secret Christian.
Hazm's having then to make decisions about, with what I've chosen, what does that put me? Does that put me in opposition against my heritage?
And this is what's shocking to me, because I'm watching the news and I'm realizing that everyone's talking about the issue, the problem at hand, but no one's talking about the roots of it. In the Cold War, the U.S. government was studying what that ideology was about. They studied how does someone from that culture in that area, what do they believe, how do they believe, but everyone's afraid to talk about Islam.
Good. Okay, and now Hazm Faraj, please welcome him.
Hello. I see the red, white, and blue here, and it makes me proud on the inside. And my message here today is not about Israel, it's not about Iran, it's not about anything other than it's a message for the world. And I stand here today with you guys. You might see me, but you don't see the multitudes of people behind who have stories that we have never heard about. There are stories of women being raped. There are stories of kids being sold into slavery. There are whole people groups in the Middle East who are looking to us. And today I am speaking my opinion that enough is enough. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. I'm sorry. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. You cannot negotiate with somebody who wants to kill you.
Today we're going to be taping with a gentleman by the name of Father Zechariah. He's wanted for
60 million.
60, just 60. That's not too much. I mean, Bin Laden was only wanted for what?
25?
25. That means we have an opportunity today to make $60 million. Not funny?
No.
No, not funny. So we're waiting for Father Z to arrive. I was just told that they're doing circles around the block to make sure that there's no one laying in wait for him, kind of like to ambush him. So, that's him. I think that's them. How did it feel to have your brother murdered at such a young age?
I was so young, but praise the Lord who took out of my heart any hatred to Muslims. My late father, who was not a priest, he was interested in caring for the converted Muslims from the early beginning. And I lived in this atmosphere. So I inherited what my father had. Even the granddaughter of Hassan al-Banna, the establisher of Brotherhood. Muhammad wanted to establish a state, an empire all over the whole world. The whole world. So the caliphs came after him and wanted to accomplish his ultimate intention. Then came Bin Laden, after him Daesh. All those, they want to renew the old theory. We are Arabs, we understand Arabic, and we search it in their books.
So what we're seeing in Iraq and Syria,
it is real Islam. This is the picture of the real Islam. The sword of Islam is against every person ex-Muslim. He should be killed like you, like others. But all these things, they want to prevail, but they will not. They will not. Don't fear. You should not fear.
what a day. Oh my gosh. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Abuna.
Bye.
Ah, that man is a hero to many people.
When I came to America, I came after 30 years of living under Islamic law. And it doesn't matter how wealthy you are in the Middle East, how educated you are in the Middle East, if you're a woman, you are ruled by certain laws that are extremely oppressive. So when I came to America, I was 30 years old. It took me maybe 5 years to really realize I am equal to men. Leaving the Muslim world, you don't realize you're free right away. It's almost like a prisoner. When you open the prison gate, you don't know where to go right away. There was an article in the New York Times called "Why Fear Sharia, Islamic Law?" Can you believe it? When the New York Times, which is the #1 newspaper in America, is shaming Americans from being fearful of Sharia, Islamic law. Sharia law is feared by Muslims in the Middle East. They are resisting it. They are afraid of it.
There's really nothing else out there, and whatever else was out there was wrong, because that's what I was taught. And the more good you did, the more, for lack of a better word, points you get. And if you get more points on the good side than the bad side, you go to heaven, maybe. Later in life, he became more devout. And the more devout he got, the more he wanted to learn about Islam in a more pure and natural way.
Was he not seeing pure Islam in America?
According to him, no, he wasn't. And so an opportunity presented itself in Yemen, and he decided to go. Soon after he got there, things got really bad really fast. And the first attack he survived, but a lot of his friends died. He sounded confident that they would come back again, and he sounded ready and prepared for when they did. He was taught that you get great reward for dying as a shaheed, as a martyr. I just felt so alone in a room full of people that just didn't understand me. Hazem came up to me and said, "I'm sorry for everything that you're going through." And that was such a powerful thing to say in the moment that I needed to hear it, because I just felt like the world was against me, and I felt like no one cared about the pain that I was in. I just broke down and I lost it. Everything in me just let go, and tears started flowing, and I was able to just let go of all the built up anger and aggression and hurt that I had been feeling. All it took was compassion and an apology.
He had gotten lots of opportunities or invitations to share about his newfound faith.
And caution him that people would use him because it's one of those hot topic buttons, so to speak, play off of it maybe for their own personal agenda or gain or whatever. And so that was one of the things too with me that really made me nervous.
Yeah.
Was the fact that he's going to find out that we're people like everybody else, and so you meet new people, and the idea is in this new faith everybody's wonderful, and then you find out in the new faith that there are people that's like what you've left, that's going to disappoint you, that maybe you're not everything that they appear to be.
He was very impulsive. It didn't matter who told him anything. He believed everything everybody told him. So he was very naive. During the past 14 years that I have followed Hazem's life, and I've learned a lot about him. I've learned of all these people that always want to help them. They come out of the woodwork, but their help is to manipulate him. Their help is for him to make them money.
He's had his disappointments, Hazem's had his ups, his downs, and some really downs. There was a couple of times that I thought, oh God, is he going to make it through this?
I have seen people who I thought were monsters of human beings. They were just evil, mean, bad people, and then they give their life to God. They become angelic, almost like floating, you know? Then I've seen the opposite. I've seen religion make good, kind, beautiful human beings turn into monsters.
And then you get around those people that maybe are powerful, and along with power goes affluence and that sort of thing, and not get corrupted in the process.
I was separated from my family. That was the first shocker. That was the first traumatic experience. My second most traumatic experience in life is when I was separated from my Christian community. It was a moment in my life where I realized that slapping the name of God on something to justify your behavior is wrong on either side. Islam or Christianity. So this is an unofficial refugee camp in Dohuk, Iraq, northern Iraq. If you notice, it doesn't look much different than the official UN refugee camps. People have been displaced here. Little kids running around. Look at this. There's a baby in there. Do you see that? Where are these guys from? Do we know?
It's from Sinjar.
So we just met with the director of the Dohuk province Ministry of Health. The guy is over 1.5 million refugees, locals, that's total. They went from 1.2 million people to 2.2 million people because of ISIS, and so they're overwhelmed, and we are going to do something and help them. Say hi, Elsa Brown.
Hi, Elsa Brown.
Say hi, Khadir.
Yes, hi.
Say hello, say hi, Fahmi.
Hi.
There's 8,000 students, and we're just going to do our part.
Whenever Yazidis pray, they face the sun. The light of the sun is the light of God.
We have some kind of a mathematical symbol. You can see this one is the early sign of building the flower of life. This one is simply called the fruit of life. It's like the Star of David.
How old is the symbol?
It's 7,000 BC.
Oh my gosh.
It's old. We go way far into the past, even before the Jewish. ISIS, they believe that we believe in the devil, so ISIS simply attacks us and simply justifies it as we are infidel. When the Ottoman Empire started, they combined the whole empire on the basics of Islam. So the Quran teachings was done in here by the Ottomans in before 300 or something like that by Fariq Pasha.
Was it against your will?
Of course. Yeah, they slaughtered many at that year. It was 90% the Arabs. It was 90% our neighbors. There is something we call Karif. Karif is someone who you can consider family. These Karif are those who raped us, and these Karif are those who attacked us. The Karif really, our friends, our family from the Arabs attacked us. The other day, I was talking to a girl who was abducted from by ISIS, and then she ran away their captivity. She told me, it's my Kirif, the guy who used to come to my house, is the guy who was drinking with my dad, the guy who was living with us. He was the guy that was raping me. Continually.
I know that there are repercussions in writing of what's supposed to happen to an infidel or somebody like me. So I was deathly afraid that, my brothers or my father, might be that upset with me for this. This was huge, unplanned, and it was a long road.
Seriously, I like what you're saying, and it sounds really inspiring and courageous. But do you really think that you could actually get hurt for converting?
Yeah. You want me to say it again, that part?
You're not used to being in that seat. Yes. So, but this is good because I think the people need to know what you do.
Helping women to escape something for me, it's really touched my heart. Even this morning, one of the family, they told me, my daughter, she's in Riyadh, could you find any solution to help us to escape? When we just discuss with the woman, we know there are someone on ISIS, they just listen. And sometimes they take phone, they talk to us. I told them that it's not humanity to do that. Feel your daughters being kidnapped by someone, what you are going to do? They don't have answers. He said, no, this is our Sharia, tell us we should help Yazidis people to convert to Islam, then we should bring him as a slavery in the beginning, then step by step, they become real people.
So they think they're doing the Yazidis a favor?
Yes.
سيد الرئيس، نذبح تحت يافطة لا إله إلا الله.
السيدة النائبة، التزمي بالبيان الذي وافقت عليه.
سيد الرئيس، نساؤنا تسمى وتباع في سوق الرق. رجاء أخوان، أهلي يذبحون كما ذبح كل العراقيين. ذبح الشيعة والسنة والمسيحيين والتركمان والشبك، واليوم يذبح اليزيديين باسم الإنسانية. انقذونا سيد الرئيس، نطالب البرلمان العراقي بالتدخل الفوري لإنقاذ هذه المذبحة. أريد
شكرا جزيلا، شكرا جناب النائب، شكرا.
American aircraft have begun conducting humanitarian airdrops of food and water to help these desperate men, women, and children survive. Earlier this week, one Iraqi in the area cried to the world, "There is no one coming to help." Well, today America is coming to help.
4 days of the world knowing this, nobody did anything. No conscious did anyone. No one with the conscious.
عندما قرأت البيان في البرلمان ينتشر بسرعة، عند ذلك فقد تحرك.
And because of her speech to the parliament that went viral, that's when the people started moving.
ليس لأنني قلت ذلك أو هم يشعرون أن هؤلاء أبرياء، لا، ولكن ضغط إعلامي.
But because she was speaking to the parliament and politically over the media, the world began to put pressure on them, not because of their good conscience, but because of their reputation.
يعني كنا دائما نتوقع أنه في ديمقراطية وفي حقوق إنسان، ولا أحد تكلم. بمعنى هذه كلها شعارات يستخدمونها عندما يريدون، وليست هي حقائق.
We used to always believe in the Western world's democracy and their belief in freedom and dignity and human rights and freedom of women. But when this happened, we started to see that this is just a facade.
شعرون شديد. My name is Khadr. The 3rd of August they came to us and afternoon they told us, you guys will be belonging to us, just keep going what you do. They came to our village on the 15th of August. They collected all the men. They told us, you will have to convert to Islam.
إبادة جماعية للشعب لأنه يعتقد يعني بسبب معتقداته.
We're in the 21st century and because of the beliefs this is happening, because of their thoughts and philosophies.
All of these Arab villages, they help ISIS immediately when ISIS come to the area. They root the Yazidis' homes and things.
وانقود عاد يكهن بالسلمان جلا بنقوم تشتاقي وانا كن وداريخنا تشي.
They told us, okay then, since you are not converting to Islam, we will guide you and take you to the safe area on Sinjar mountain. Instead of taking us to the mountain, groups of us, they would be taken around the village and they will just make us as a line and they would shoot everyone.
مشكلتنا في سنجار
The problem in Sinjar
إنه إحنا قريبين جدا من القرى العربية
is because we are very close to the Arab villages.
وهذه القرى العربية هي اللي ساعدت داعش على الدخول إلى سنجار.
And these villages are the ones that empowered Daesh to enter the Sinjar.
Iraqi villagers.
Yes. Yes.
And the government knows this.
Yes, of course.
Now they use that powerful, they take it from American to killing minority. Because of that, people, they say Obama, he don't understand what's going to happen in the area.
So they shot us and they went away. And after that, I could feel that I'm not dead, like I could feel I'm still alive. And I got up and we went to the east side of the village. There was an Arab village.
Were there any Muslims that defended you from those villages?
No.
We told those Arabs that we survived from this massacre, and they told us we will not protect you, we will not help you.
One of the people, he told his friend and his neighbor, my wife and my children are available, so please take them to a safe place.
الرجل أخذ الزوجة والأطفال وحاجياتهم الثمينة والسيارة وسلمهم إلى داعش.
Wow. The friend took the wife and the kids and all the belongings and gave them to Daesh.
Don't ask me why, because I don't know really.
Can I get a picture of his scar?
Yes, you can believe it. Sin, no?
You know, I on that day, one of the American journalists, they phoned me. He told them, what do you say? I told them, tell him Obama. I should answer this because I think from mountain.
He's negotiating to rescue some prisoners.
افتهم اوكي خلاص تمام. انا اللي عليها هسه اروح من المكتب اخابرك بقول لك الفلوس في مكتبك. الو عيني هلا وشكرا. شكرا جزيلا الله يخليك مع السلامه. هلا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين عيسى موسى داوود الكتاب سماوي طبعا احنا قرآن
ليش هاجروا؟
عنده ولد عشيرة الكاكل اخوانا مسيحي الشبش التركمان الازي هاجرون
حتى المسلمين هاجروا.
هي حتى مسلمين احنا مسلمين.
طب ليش؟ ايش
والله كل شيء معنا. ابد هيك.
شو قصدهم يعني هم الدولة الإسلامية كيف يهاجروكم يعني؟
هذا يدورون على دولة إسلامية ليش راح؟ وش دولة إسلامية؟ هم دولة إسلامية بس احنا هاي أقليات يهاجرون. عرب هم باقي وياهم. إن شاء الله. إن شاء الله بخير. الله دول الغرب.
الله دول الغرب.
In the beginning of his ministry, there were peaceful, loving, tolerance verses. That's what gets quoted a lot in the West. Where did it go from there, from the peaceful, loving verses? And why do we have these hatred, violence, and what things we're dealing with now? When studying religion, you study the book, the founder, and history. What do these three say? There was a connection between his fame and his verses. So when he was a weak man in Mecca, love, tolerance, peace, all of that. You do your religion, I do mine. But then when he had a following, that's when things changed.
I read in the Huffington Post and in Time Magazine and all these different media, there is nothing in the life of Muhammad that justifies or encourages what ISIS is doing. That's exactly what he did to the Jews of Beni Qurayza. He killed 1,000 of them, beheading the men. And what did he do with the women? Those were considered Malakat al-Yamin. the women, the possessions of your right hand. They were like slaves. Muhammad had about 80 incursions, 80 of these wars that he waged in his lifetime.
طلعت 4 من حلقات طلعنا شو نسوي؟ قاعدين هاي القيام شو نسوي؟ صاحب 6 أطفال. عندي توجه. I am sleeping here about place. About animals. أمريكا صعب. استراليا علموا عن فقرك بحالك.
لماذا لا تدفع الجزية؟ اسمي لعنك الله ونحن قادمون بإذن الله الدولة الإسلامية في العراق والشام. مدرس من الأول للسادس أدرس كيمياء، يعني شلون الأسلوب يكون ومحبوب بالمدرسة ولحد الآن. يعني نفس الحالة الأخويا نفس الحالة دزوا لي رسائل نفس الحالة.
اللي يصور يعني عندنا مناطق مخصصة تصورها.
شكرا يعطيكم العافية.
أهلا وسهلا.
أصلي لكم
الجميع إن شاء الله.
نقول مضادات إنسانية. وينكم مضادات
لما كانت الحرب العالمية الأولى إيش كان عملوا بالجماعة هون؟ يعني كثير من المسيحيين كان ذبحوهم، كان قتلوهم، كان بهدلوهم، بس مع هذا بقيت المسيح.
فيهم يجوا إربيل؟ في داعش يجوا إربيل؟ في احتمال؟
لا ما يخلوهم. وبعدين هسه يعني قرر يعني الكونغرس الأمريكي أنه قرر بأن راح هو يتدخل ويقضي على داعش.
إذا إجوا هتمشي؟ إذا إجوا هون رح تمشي ولا تستمر؟ سؤال There's this misconception in America and in Europe. Everybody wants to kumbaya their way to their own agenda and politics and whatnot. But there's this misconception because of either ignorant people or dishonest people or wishful people. When I was growing up, there was no such thing as radical Islam. It was just Islam. When I grew up, jihad was not a question of a physical struggle or an inner struggle. It was both. And from a historical perspective, if you look at history, history will show you that they are following the example of the Prophet.
I believe it's 164 verses calling for violent jihad. And for the people that didn't want to do that, Muhammad rebuked them and said that God is going to punish them for not joining him in this jihad, which is a means of forcing people to convert to Islam, like they're doing in Syria, like they're doing in Iraq right now. Muslims are beautiful people, but the problem isn't them. The problem is not Muslims. The problem is Islam does encourage these things.
Okay, well, we were driving back and we broke down 20 miles.
The wonderful moment where you break down, and that's the mountain where ISIS lives and is a stronghold. Our taxi decides that he has to change his feed pump. I think he means fuel pump at that moment. So this is how disasters happen.
The U.S. Congress will hear the harrowing testimony of a young girl, a victim of violent persecution and repeated rapes. Bazi was eventually saved by Khida Domli, who helps Yazidi women escape the clutches of this terror group.
Is she described the building she's in?
She told me before where is this
بتوصف البناية اللي هي موجودة.
Yeah, بعرفه وين.
She's described the building she's in so that they can go and rescue her.
Yesterday she was very sad. She told me, Khidr, are you going to do something for us or not?
They separated me from my family, and I was raped by them forcefully.
And when you say them, many people?
Abu Abdullah al-Amriki. Abu Abdullah al-Amriki.
So he was an American?
Yes, he was American.
Hello? Marhaba. Again. Here we go.
All right, so Thamer, I'm going to ask Bazi some questions. Is he light-skinned or dark-skinned?
He was very white. I would say he's around 30. He wasn't thin and he wasn't fat. His face wasn't round, it was like tall. Black hair, he had a big beard, thick from the cheeks, getting thinner, big eyes, and I could tell they are yellow.
So this is what I have so far.
I think that with radical Islamic terrorism, there's no geography to it. We know, we talk about we don't want the terrorists to get here to America. The terrorists are here, right? We've seen this from numerous attacks. We've seen 100+ attacks or plots foiled, right, by law enforcement. So there's no geography to this. There's no ethnicity to this. And, this is fed into children and they grow up and they want to please their parents and they carry out attacks because of that. So I think what you saw is, it is very common. You came from a family with a radical bent. That's where the religion eclipses everything else in the family. The religion kind of lays over and is the main template for everything that the family does. So I would say that's probably what you were raised under.
So these are young adults, probably not much different than me, who looked at the same circumstances and somehow figured out they said yes to it. I don't know. So who are these guys? Emmanuel Luckman or Lutchman, I don't know how to pronounce it. Enrique Marquez Jr. That's the friend of the San Bernardino shooter, which happened only about an hour and a half away from where I am right now. The most bizarre to me personally is always when it's an American or a non-Arab. So I'm going to look at Emmanuel Lutchman and go to the FBI website, and here's what it says. Stanley.
Hang on. This is what's happening over here.
Stanley's fighting terror with us, right?
Yeah, he's chewing on a bone.
Rochester man charged with attempting to provide material support to ISIS. He planned to kill innocent civilians on New Year's Eve in the name of the terrorist organization, said Assistant Attorney General Carlin. Thankfully, law enforcement was able to intervene and thwart him. This is my problem with terms like ISIS-inspired, and this is my problem with the liberal agenda of not calling something what it is. I get the spirit of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and all of our celebrities and our politicians. I understand it. They're actually doing what they should be doing in a misinformed way. So why is it unacceptable for me as an ex-Muslim to see terms like ISIS-inspired? Because that means nothing more than they're Islamically inspired by the same verses. And we think that it's easier to link them to ISIS rather than to the verses which ISIS are using. But this will not go away until we decide to have the guts to call this what it is. This is Islamic theology.
Ladies and gentlemen, I sit here humbled by your willingness to listen to each and every one of us. I think of Eleanor Roosevelt, who, in a time of war and in a time of devastation, Eleanor Roosevelt helped draft the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone is entitled to the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political, or any other opinion. Today, I read these clauses and I recognize that with what is happening in our world, There has not been enough outrage of conscience. I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that there are people on the other side of that pond. There are people on the other side of the news headlines. They have names, they have stories, they have family members, they have aspirations, and this is why I am here to testify, and I am here to encourage you to do the right thing, and I know you will do the right thing. We know history has proven to be on the side of good people. In any age, history has proven to be on our side. Evil will not prevail, and I believe that with all my heart. George Orwell said, in times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. Ladies and gentlemen, telling the truth in our day has become a revolutionary act. Eleanor Roosevelt believed that human rights didn't begin in government. It didn't begin on the public platform, but it began at home and in small places. Today, I remind you that as ladies of influence have a responsibility, a calling, if you will.
Ever since the Declaration of Human Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, was passed in Paris in 1948 on December the 10th, we have fostered the observance of this day not only in the United States, but throughout the world. The building of human rights would be one of the foundation stones on which we would build in the world an atmosphere in which peace could grow.
There's a reason why most of the Muslim nations did not sign the UN Declaration of Human Rights. Because 1/3 of those tenets of the Declaration of Human Rights go completely against Islamic law and jurisprudence. So what do? They create a whole new Declaration of Human Rights called the Cairo Declaration of Human Rights. One clause in it says the highest law of any Muslim land is Sharia law. What is Sharia law? You know what? According to the historical Muhammad, it's the Caliphate, what we're seeing today.
I think we will find that it is easier in the world to build peace because war destroys all human rights and freedoms. So in fighting for those, we fight for peace.
You don't need to be a Muslim or a non-Muslim or a Christian or a non-Christian, a Yazidi or a non-Yazidi to want to act. You just have to be human. And that's what I'm hoping to tug on.
Did you ever think that when you started this journey you'd be standing in this building?
Never. I remember when I was depressed in bed, not knowing what the heck I was going to do with my life. And what I found is that to serve people is the greatest thing that you could ever do.
I'm Ed Royce, Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and we just had testimony from a young woman named Bazi, and along with 10 other girls, she was sold to a ISIS fighter who claimed to be an American, and that under his religion, what he was doing was correct.
This victim identified her captor as Abdullah al-Amriki, the American, saying he sold off 9 of the other girls while keeping her to himself.
She persevered, tried again and again to escape, and finally made her escape behind Kurdish lines. And as she says, there are thousands of Yazidi girls and women who are still in captivity.
Terrorists use rape in an effort to wipe away cultural diversity. Religious minorities kill LGBT persons in order to manifest their twisted vision of a homogeneous caliphate.
And it is hopeful that we will be further mobilized to take action to mitigate this terrible daily occurrence of atrocities against women and children, including little boys. And of course, Bazi, what she has been through.
We need to make sure that if we have the ability to stop this evil, then we shouldn't stand on ceremonies. We should just do what needs to be done.
Without the commitment of the people of the United States and our Congress, as representative of our people, these victims have no hope.
How'd it go?
It's great. Yeah? We done very well. Yeah. And she is really amazing.
Awesome. Bravo.
She do a great speech.
Tell her she's helping a lot of girls in Iraq.
Tell
her her pain has a purpose now. He was definitely victimized in life, but he had complete intent on wreaking havoc. And it's always the same thing. It's correct.
This is Joe Testani from FBI, by the way. This is 5 years ago. Well, from my perspective, I think he showed his true colors in court today.
His whole statement was about him renouncing radical Islam. And then when he didn't get his own way, we saw sort of, I guess, his true feelings about it.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah, I mean, when you sort of heard that outburst, it was probably reaffirming for you that it was...
I wouldn't say it's reaffirming because I didn't need any reaffirmance. We knew the facts in this case.
Clearly, he reached out to the Islamic State himself. He was able to find Abu Isa al-Amriki. Not only is Abu Isa al-Amriki a recruiter, or was a recruiter for the Islamic State, he was an individual in charge of planning attacks against Western targets. So he reached out to a high level at the Islamic State before any FBI involvement, before any sources were engaged with it.
I mean, what do you want the community to know moving forward?
Well, I think this case shows that we do have this here. It can be anywhere. You've seen it in Florida, you've seen it in Ohio, you've seen it around the country, around the world. So I don't think you can say because we're Rochester or a small town that it can't be.
Here's what I felt going inside the courtroom. My heart and the evidence and all of the news and everything proves that he was a terrorist.
Yeah.
When I heard him talk from here, it makes sense why he was so marginalized towards ISIS. I suspected when he started doing that number because he was getting angry and more upset. And when the judge ruled, he just lost it. But here's what he was saying. He was saying, La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. That's number one. No God but Allah, Muhammad is his prophet. Number two, he was saying, Iddawla, Iddawla, Iddawla. He was shouting it to the judge, and that translates the state, the Islamic State, basically. And then he was swearing allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. This dude needs to spend a long time in jail, unfortunately. But still, he needs his heart to be, I don't know, rehab.
Well, and the excuse that he was on Zoloft and had suicide attempts and was bipolar, and I said to the prosecuting attorney Brett, I was like, that describes half of Los Angeles.
Right.
and we don't join ISIS.
Right, true.
So
I think the reason why I felt for him is because it's such a complicated, I call it a crisis. It's such a complicated crisis.
Well, did you relate to his background?
Absolutely. When he said I was just trying to look for acceptance, that's not just LA, that's the world.
Let's talk about a convert that comes to Islam within a prison system and then he gets out, right? He's a new convert. He starts reading the Quran and the Sunnah, right? He's taking that in, and then he may have some mentorship or kinship. From there, you have this context when all this was written and what's behind the scenes, but then you have other opinions from different religious scholars, and all this starts to layer upon them. I saw new converts in general would just get overwhelmed with so much information, the nuances of this theology, that sometimes someone would walk alongside of them and say, let me make this simple for you. We're going to live like the time of Muhammad and the next 2 generations after him, a Salaf, and you don't have to worry about all that. And here, we want you to watch these videos and read these books, and we're going to keep it simple for you as opposed to being in that cycle of seeking with all the layers of opinions.
My heart dropped because I knew his life was over. But being a woman, I couldn't have reached out to him. Did his family know, if you talked to him, what he was going to do? No. But I guarantee you the people that did, they're still out here.
So there are others?
Of course there are.
So do you think they'll influence other kids?
Yes. And this is a strong problem because, like he said, there's more people just like him. I mean, some of them have lived where they'll say America dropped bombs. If somebody killed your father, you would have a hatred towards them. For my own safety, I won't call out. But I've talked to him. I know who he spent his time with. And it's scary.
Take an individual that converts and then maybe travels to Syria to fight with ISIS. They start taking in this propaganda. They're watching beheading videos every day. And as they're being radicalized, they actually become a sociopath. They become numb to this. It's not genetic, it's not a trait, but it's a state.
So there is a place of conditioning for jihad.
As we look at news articles, the end sentence is always, authorities are trying to figure out what the motive is. Well, we know what the motive is. My experience in interviewing folks that are very radical is they want to speak on theology. They want to talk about this ideology. Since they're telling us, I think we need to listen and better understand it.
I used to look at terrorists as terrorists. Now I look at them wondering what the heck happened in their childhood or in their experience in life that made them get seduced to terrorism.
I mean, you have to think about it. This guy has a mental disability, and other people are playing on this mental disability,
So you don't believe him when he shouted out allegiance to Baghdadi?
He's my Muslim brother, but every information that he has with him may not be correct, if that makes sense to you. So did he mean that statement? Allahu Alam. Ask him.
Hi, Emmanuel, can you hear me? I know a lot of people want to know, do you have any regrets?
How can I regret something that was written before I came to existence? Everything that happened to me was written according to a good time for my purpose of a better sin. So how can I regret something that was over time of decrease? Everybody know what I'm reading for. I'm Muslim.
No, I grew up Muslim. Emmanuel, when you were in court and the judge made you angry, you had said that that they were more like you in America. Are you there? They hung up the call.
Most of the folks who I've represented have a pretty visceral and easily documented or proven history of trauma. And the dividing point is whether they and their family are willing to be open about that or not. Everyone in a family unit has a narrative that they accept, and oftentimes that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you fled, in many ways rejected the dominant narrative in the family. Those narratives tend to present the primary caregivers as noble and benevolent and kind, and when the reality of the situation is the opposite, it causes the child who's receiving that a certain dissonance. Some of the people who are the most extreme in ISIS or other radical organizations are also going to be people who experience some of the most extreme forms of trauma and abuse, and that's internalized.
A lot of American ways have changed the world, where women didn't speak out. Now you have women who are running businesses, women who are controlling the ideas in the world of men. Things have changed. America has basically put a stamp on the world and say, you know what? We're gonna let you think and do what you wanna do, but within these parameters. And those parameters change the whole aspect of being human. And this is a society that does not care about family values. This society cares about the dollar, and it's built on the dollar, so where corporations here are in control. Is the reason why a lot of Muslims have started to look at America and say, you know what, it's breaking apart the family structure. You feel me? And an extremist will look at it as they're tearing apart the fabric, the real fabric of man. And so they want to change that. And they believe that them changing that is basically them receiving, acceptance from Allah.
Wow.
Anybody being Muslim, know who your sheikhs are. Learn your religion. Because it's a really thin line.
It's a thin line between
being an extremist and being Muslim. You can follow a terrorist right down the line by who his sheikh is. It's as simple as that. In our religion, I follow what the first few generations said. Sheikh Mubin Rahimullah. Why does it say to kill a disbeliever? What are the qualifications to kill a disbeliever?
As someone who has tasted religious aggression, I honor his work. And we're currently looking for a man by the name of Abu Abdullah al-Amriki.
حاليا تركيزه ما بين الشخص نبي لقبه البادعش أبو عبد الله الأمريكي.
يدرسها يعني
حازم؟ أو شخص أبخو. He's asking, is that guy real American?
Yes.
Or
yes. He has dark hair because he converted to Islam 5 years ago, and he's blonde. He wants to look black, so the beard and it's dyed. He's 30 years old.
أمريكي صالة قاعدة تقريبا.
مخابن خراب.
Says I feel sorry for people joining them.
Yeah.
For that way.
Is there a way to kind of show this to his? What's the protocol to give this to them? So that,
شو طريقة مقارن يعني أم في تصوير بكهينة أم طبع كن بدنا أم بوريكن أو نهاية هبالي أو يجيبن.
صار في تلفزيون هبالة بوزن.
He says you can give it to everyone.
Okay. And I'll get it to him. Let him know.
Yes.
So his eyes are also honey too.
جاريجي يعني مروزانة أبدينا عسلينا يعني ناي. He says there's either one. We either catch him or we kill him.
You want to ask him?
ماما تو هر الچی ای بودو نه چویی. تو هر الچی ای ما بود چوی ما بود.
ای ولا زلچیا.
تنه دیجه بر جاوه تنه کدیا.
پاشک لوی تزانیش.
I told him, what do you think he looks like? He said, what do you think he looks like? See, this is the area where the biggest fight happened.
Here we are in Sinjar Mountain, the ground zero of where ISIS attacked. There's literally no one left except some of the people who are going to the school that we're humbly helping out with. I just don't get it. I don't understand. Do not be deceived there in America as you see the destruction here in a land far away. The truth of the matter is religious aggression is real and nobody's safe with it. The problem is though we have to keep the politics away from the religion, and it diffuses all of the bad guys. It takes away all of their control, and this stuff won't happen again. I mean, look at this. I mean, what do you see when you see this?
How do we get to peace? Well, someone has to look at asymmetrical options, even here in the U.S. So I think that's kind of our starting framework. Messaging and things like that.
Yeah. Basically making peace a lot more appealing than jihad.
Right, and it's not easy.
I'm actually excited to where the conversation is going. For 16 years, Briggs, I've been embarrassed or afraid to say I'm an ex-Muslim. In the last 8 years, it really horrified me. We were being told the Islamic State is not Islamic and it's not a state. As an ex-Muslim, it's felt like I have been in a pseudo-reality. Is my experience typical based on your work, or am I just a part of a radicalized culture?
Again, I think we're standing on both sides of the Grand Canyon looking at the same issue. And many in your place that may still be Muslim may still have that anxiety, trepidation, but they're still under that, in that family where they're not allowed to speak out and be concerned about it. Essentially, the Investigative Project on Terrorism did a remarkable study recently that showed that deaths to jihadist attacks from 2001 to 5 were about 2,500 a year. From 2010 to 2015, they're up at 28,500 a year. So that's simple math shows us 10 times more casualties. In 1998, there were about 15 Salafi jihadist terrorist groups. Now there's 50 plus, and the numbers of members in these groups is growing exponentially. The critical texts, those critical texts are part of that ideology. What's at the root of it is there are sacred texts in these books. And that's what Osama bin Laden and Zarqawi and Baghdadi, that's what they rely upon, literally.
The kids who are attracted to ISIS, they're uniquely vulnerable because of trauma history, because of family dysfunction, because of cultural distortions, because of religious distortions and their misunderstandings about that. And they have a self-narrative oftentimes. I can't tell you how many of my clients were told by their primary caregivers that they're losers, that they're lazy, that they're no good, okay? I think it's very much the same with Mr. Lutchman. He is someone who obviously came from impoverished and difficult background, and he reaches adulthood very, very impaired. He was striving for something that a group of people were exploiting to tell him he was going to be an all-star. So when he gets to 20 years, he has that deep, profound sense of shame. Lutchman is emasculated in court, okay? He took a chance, took a risk of apologizing, taking responsibility, and saying he's sorry. And when the judge gives him 20, he feels his manhood is taken away. So the only way to get back and to reclaim his manhood is to say something like that. He's essentially powerless. And that, in a microcosm, is what's happening with all these young kids. They have few options, and ISIS provides a ready-made option for validation, masculinity, and a way of overcoming this notion of their manhood having been taken away. In one action, they become the champion.
Your client's family situation, you were describing my family situation. And it's so clear now to me that Abu Abdullah, the American terrorist, is not just, to me, Abu Abdullah, which for me to say this is big. Abu Abdullah, the American terrorist, became a terrorist not in his adulthood. It started somewhere in his past. And he's manifesting this craziness now.
The solution now to let people to live in peace. Everyone live in the way they want. I think there are still opportunity for people to live together. But not that mean if we fight ISIS, it's finished, so everything will be ready. The culture's campaign, it is much difficult than the military. If really American and EU, they want to support to separate church and mosque from the authorities, they should not support those people who are supporting this theory.
Yalla. Mr. Domilli for president.
No, please.
Mr. Domilli!
Very civil activist, nothing else.
Why do you think Bazi's story made it such an impact in America?
I think it's very important for American people. They should understand there are some American attend ISIS, not just Arab people, not just Islamic radicals.
This is us with Mr. Khader, and we are lost.
No.
We are not lost.
You are now in the one of the very oldest area in Al-Qush. This is one of the Jewish temples in Kurdistan of Iraq in Al-Qush.
So Nahum would have been somewhere in this area.
I really feel sad, very sad when I see this a very rich history and civilization and heritage and this missing situations. Because of that, we say Iraqi government never believe.
Wait, is that it right there?
This is.
That's Nahum.
Yes, that's Nahum. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hey, يلا خلينا نروح جو ندخل. This is a past, so we should, if we don't understand what happened in the past, we will not understand how to build a good futures.
For those of you who are watching, take a look. Take a look. This is the Prophet Nahum's tomb. 2,600 years of history. And if you look around, if you've been in Israel and you've gone to the Prophet's tombs, it looks very similar to this. So I was taken aback. In the face of terrorism and in the face of racism and prejudice, 18 kilometers away, ISIS is on the front lines trying to come into this town and this area, and this is the kind of history that is at stake in Iraq.
There is still much work to be done. That means honestly confronting the crisis of Islamic extremism and the Islamists and Islamic terror of all kinds. Religious leaders must make this absolutely clear. Barbarism will deliver you no glory. Piety to evil will bring you no dignity.
I seriously hope the richest, hottest woman out there will see this video.
Somebody, yes.
And fall in love with you and your stories and your quirkiness.
Like my music. Think I sing good.
I think you're great.
Yeah. No, I want a woman that does it.
No, I wasn't talking about me, Mess. I'm talking about, like, I think your music is great.
All the time.
Don't you think his music is great?
Oh my gosh, it's awesome.
It's, I mean, yeah.
Remember?
What happened?
No,
tell me what just happened.
Yeah?
Tell me what just happened.
No?
Yeah, what just happened?
I don't believe he's the same guy. So the first one, the first journalist to meet me when he was in
Can I show?
Yes, when he was in the emergency hospital. I just know he's the same one. Oh my God. You don't know how much I cried and you, oh, Khadir. Oh my God. You see how much I sat in that times? You see?
Khadir, wow, Khadir. Oh my God.
Come on, you're stronger than this. We need you strong. Come on.
Strong.
He is strong. That's why he's crying.
Tired.
Today we worked on talking to the people that are working on the project in Sinjar, the school, and putting a strategy together for the next year, probably for the next 2 years.
You're very loved, and thank you for everything you do.
Love everywhere. See ya.
Bye. So many of you know I come to Iraq and I help, really, we all help actually. It's like a social media effort with my friends and family and my social media followers. I know I'm biased, so I get it, but this is my baby, but it's also the baby of so many people who are dealing with it and have been dealing with it, so I really feel privileged and honored that I get to have a voice in it.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I have some question.
Okay.
Do you like him?
Yes, I love him.
Yes.
You are very welcome here, Mrs.
Now this is not far from Ground Zero, Sinjar, where ISIS made its debut. I believe the best way to combat terrorism is to be normal and live your life in spite of the fear, despite the fear, in the face of that fear. You just be yourself, and not only be yourself, you celebrate it. And so the numbers of family began to increase, and so now
My heart is happy to say that we went from 120 to this next school year is going to have 1,000. 1,000. Now, if that doesn't make your heart just jump, I don't know what will, because this is me. I'm one person with the help of my friends and family and close ones, and we're doing this. We are actually making an impact.
I would tell my brother Muhammad that I forgive him and that all I ever wanted was a relationship with him. He didn't have to go a million miles away to find the truth. The truth was right in front of him. The truth is love. That's what I would say.
And then, 2 years later, I got the opportunity to be welcomed back into my father's graces, which meant a lot to me. And I threw on a pair of sneakers and I got in the car and I went there. My father opened the door and I didn't give him much chance after that. I threw my arms right around him and I said, I came to make sure that you're okay and that everything's okay. It felt incredible. It felt surreal. I didn't know what was gonna happen next, but if I could have paused right there, that part felt good. And he came up the stairs after I did and told my sister to put up a pot of coffee. His sister's here. And I was back in the family. And I just felt so incredibly thankful that I had the opportunity to have peace with him and really be around him. And honestly, he's one of the only people who didn't make me feel so different for not being Muslim.
I've always been a bit nervous about this work, and we've gotten a number of threats. Most of them not physical, just very, very abusive. Some of them have been physical threats. Al-Qaeda in Syria threatened me directly on one of their jihadi websites. I mean, come on, living in this beautiful society, this is the least I can do.
I love America because we have the ability to choose the life we want to live. I love it because our founders figured out a way that every man could pursue his dream, that every man had the right to be happy, that every man was equal with every other man. That's what makes America great.
Throughout all of this, I'm grateful that I'm an American, because in this country, the law is on my side and I have the freedom of religion. In other countries, it wouldn't be as easy.
Love to me is acceptance, and it's not about the color of your skin or what you believe in. I have Muslim parents and Muslim family, and despite what they believe or even what they think of me, they are my everything. I have nothing but love for them. My mother, she is so amazing.
What would you tell her?
That I love her and that I'm her daughter. No matter what I believe or no matter what she believes, I'm her daughter and I will always be her daughter.
The story of Noah in the Quran. There's one person who does not get on board, and it was one of Noah's sons. And so Noah cries out in intercession for his son. And Allah's response in the Quran to Noah is, hey Noah, he's not your son anymore. He's a doer of transgressions. Then now all of a sudden Noah doesn't have an option. In fact, Noah is still crying out for God to save his son. Not only do you not have you can't even mourn that your son now is not your son anymore. And so I can't be angry at my family or my culture. It's within the religion. If I really, really, really loved somebody, I would allow that person to be imperfect, and vice versa. It's the most sure thing I can go to the bank on. Loving your neighbor, as yourself. It's that simple.
Somewhere down the road, everyone will break down the barriers that they have and start seeing each other for human beings and family instead of Christian or Muslim. I think the labels will back away and we'll be able to love each other because we are a family and not because of what we may believe.